Hey, good morning, everybody. It's August 1st out here. Clouds are breaking up with us talk of rain later this afternoon, so it's just another challenge we'll be going through today. Today I'll be leaving Fort Wayne and heading towards a town in the vicinity of Columbia City, Indiana. I think from this point for about the next 5 days there's going to be some smaller towns. I know Warsaw's out there, but it's kind of in the middle of the 20-mile trek. But I don't have a specific, I have to be at a certain place at a certain time. This journey's really been interesting and wonderful about the people, and I'm just kind of going with the flow as far as that goes. I want to, yesterday, gosh, where do I start? So, I didn't really do a night video, but I had updated you guys with some live videos during the daytime. So I'm going to pick up with a few of the people I spent the night with and talked to. So yesterday, I haven't even seen it yet. I was so tired last night I couldn't make it up to the news, but apparently I was on the local news here, which is always great to have some publicity to help the journey along and pointing a thumb. So yesterday there was two different couples that I want to speak about and that I met with, and the first was the young lady named Risa, and her name is spelled R-I-S-E with an accent. So if you see it written down, I didn't misspell it, that's the way she spells it. And her husband Mark. And it's Mark I kind of feel bad about because, like I said, sometimes this happens out here. One partner's not home, male or female, husband, wife, and the other partner kind of embraces the story and wants to do something, and the other one comes home and doesn't know what's going on. So midday, Mark got a call that there's some strange guy in his house, and his wife is bringing her dad over and the neighbors over to meet him, and I guess while you're at work doing a full-time job, that's maybe a little disconcerting, I don't know. And then, as it turns out, what Mark didn't know is that he came home and she's like, hey, we're all taking Jim to dinner and get to know him a little bit. So this poor guy just kind of got sabotaged or ambushed the whole way through. But Risa and Mark, I can't do justice to who they are as people. Mark has a full-time job as an engineer, but then on Sundays they teach groups of between 10 and 25 developmentally disabled folks, and during the week, I don't know the right terminology, so I'm going to do it an injustice, and I got to get that for my book as I do my book chapter later this morning. But they work with the church kind of as foster volunteers, that if there's a short-term situation, maybe a mom is going to the hospital and has young kids, maybe there's a situation where financially something's happening, lights or water are being shut off, and they don't want the kids to suffer. The church reaches out to folks like them and says, can you foster this child or children for a few days? And they do it willingly. In fact, while we were at dinner last night, I guess a text or an email came through, and a little girl needed a place for a few days, and Risa looked at Mark and said, can we do it? They've got some stuff going on at the home in terms of repair that they weren't sure, but this is just who they are. Their children work in a capacity where they go to high schools and middle schools one day a week, and the high school's more than one day, the middle school's the other day. And I guess they talk to young children and kind of give them a little bit of an education about Christ and God, and this is the backbone and the strength of what makes them tick, and they're just really special people. And again, this whole day started because Risa had been friended by somebody who was friended by somebody who saw me on Facebook and was following me, and knew the path I was kind of taking, and happened to be shopping and saw me and extended herself to me. One of the special moments was when we got home from dinner. Their granddaughter was coming over, and I'm actually stayed with their next door neighbors, Mike and Debbie, and we got home. I went over to say goodbye to them and grab my stuff, and we sat out in the driveway and they prayed for me, and then Risa gave me a card she had written down of 3 of her favorite scriptures for me to kind of look at and keep with me and carry me through, and I read them last night, and one of them I'll share with you guys down the road a little bit, but one of them really just applied to me specifically, hit me in the way that it was special and meant something to me. So thank you guys for extending yourselves yesterday, showing myself the love that you did, and again, someday I hope to bring my kids on a road trip behind this and just meet all these wonderful people that have become friends of mine. So so that was Risa and Mark and what they do. And again, I know I'm minimizing the amount of charity and giving and loving that they do. But then I was blessed to meet Mike and Debbie yesterday when Risa invited them over to meet with me. And these folks are wonderful too. And I'm gonna kind of put a challenge out there to everybody because of something that took place last night and just in general. I'm a little kind of bummed out because sometimes, again, in my Pollyanna-ish mindset, when I put these offers or challenges out to folks, I wish everybody would just run and see it the way I see it and take hold and make this a spectacular thing, whether it's raising money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital or the Disabled Veterans of America, whether it's sharing stories of their lives and the community page, or sharing moments of how point the thumb they've applied it and seeing how it benefited them. But we got to the home last night of Mike and Debbie, and we sat down, and it was some days there's events that take place in my nights and meeting these people that is sort of transcendent, or something that really hits me, and I kind of get excited and talk about it and things like that. And then sometimes there's such a quiet peace that it's exactly the right thing at the right time, and that's going to be part of the challenge I talked to you about. But it was it was strange while sitting in the living room with Mike and Debbie. Debbie was funny because certainly I'm a talker, and Debbie was talking about how for years she was a shy young girl, and Mike could roll his eyes probably right now, but Debbie certainly wasn't shy and was very talkative and things like that, and so it was kind of cute. But you pick up from people, and a lot of times I talk about me and the journey, and people ask how I got to where I am, and I try to be as open, as honest as I can, and I try to be as transparent. I don't hold back a lot. And other times, I try to ask and listen to folks and give them an opportunity as well. Well, last night was just one of those moments where it was like I was speaking with old friends I hadn't seen in 10 years and just catching up, and it was just constant dialogue, and more than dialogue, it was pointed. It was I found myself a lot of times. I tell folks this, that sometimes like I've taught myself things, whether it be athletically or some other things in life, by helping others, and helping them I've taught myself. And this journey certainly has included things about me and opened my eyes, but as I was hearing Debbie talk, I found myself opening up in ways that I really haven't opened up. And then Mike is, when I have one of these videos, I usually try to get a lot in there, because there's usually one thing that stands out with me. And I think the thing that will stand out with me was meeting Mike last night, because it was ironic that in the background on the TV at one point was a TV show that Mike reminded me of, and I envy him in a lot of ways. I truly do. I don't know if he knows that yet, but I truly do, because sometimes you meet people that have characteristics that you wish that you could emulate or be like, and Mike was one of those folks. So Debbie and I started talking, and she was talking about her childhood, and she talking about her childhood, she had mentioned, and I don't want to share too much, but it was a little bit uneasy for her. Her mom was a little bit tough and very strict, and at the same time was I guess trying to find her own happiness and love. And as a result, I think Debbie, as a young girl, kind of pulled in and didn't feel like she had so much she can go. But then she started talking about a neighbor and this father figure that was her friend's dad. And as she's talking to me, there were two things that transpired. One was, if you remember my early, for those of you that don't know, that have joined on late, you can reach me at my website, and I encourage everybody to go there, pttjourney.com. And the reason I encourage you to go there is not only to have all my background story, my news clippings, and different things on there, but in the top right corner you can hit Facebook, YouTube, etc. What I do every day is I send this to YouTube, and I've been doing this since June, and now I didn't have any journey stories at that point in time, so I was trying to let people know as much about me. So if you're just coming onto this late and want to know a little bit about me, you can go back to YouTube, search Point to Thumb Journey, and you'll see all my videos and who I am, and you can feel free to develop your own opinion and see, who I am, good, bad, and indifferent. Well, one of those folks I talked about was my friend Stephen Mock and his dad and mom, Alan Nicky. And while she's talking about her dad, or this gentleman, this father figure, all I'm picturing was myself, and at a young age, how I used to know how it just seemed to be a happier place to be there, just to seem to be safe, and how he was one of the very strong role models as to what a man should be. So I was seeing that dynamic of it. And the next part, and I'm running out of time here quickly, is the next part was, I remember I've talked about a book that has always meant a lot to me, and this goes back to that St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Marlo Thomas, the son of Danny Thomas, the founder of St. Jude's, has 2 books out there. One, I really beg you to go get on Amazon and buy it. It's called The Right Words at the Right Time. And in it are stories that people share about somebody whose words impacted them in such a way that it lit the light bulb, it triggered them, whatever, and it kind of impacted and changed who they were and changed their lives, usually for the better. And as she was talking, you could see that I almost felt like I was reading that book again. So that's my challenge to you guys. What I want to challenge you all to do today, if not today, soon, on that website of mine, pttjourney.com, is a community page. And I want this to be a positive, sometimes what you don't know is something that meant value to you might be value to somebody over here. Something that you feel pain about or going through that you don't want to talk to somebody about. When you talk about it, it brings to light, because 5 other people that think nobody knows what they're going through are going through it. The other day I shared Riker's post about dealing with Asperger's syndrome, and hopefully it gives you folks perspective. It gave me perspective as to what some of these folks are going through, and I never knew that before. So my challenge to everybody is, there's somebody in your life that you shaped who you are, and maybe they know it and maybe they don't, and you don't have to sign your name to it, but I'm going to ask each and every one of you to think about that. Think about the person that you really want to say thank you to but never did. That teacher, that coach, that person at the store, that neighbor, that sibling, that parent. And sometimes we don't always communicate and thank these folks the way we'd like to until too late, they're gone, and then we sit there and say, God, I wish they knew how much they meant to me. Well, that's my challenge to you guys. The same way, Debbie had this father figure in her life that meant something of so much value to her, the way I've had people in my life. I'm going to ask you all to think about that for a minute as you hear this, and then find that spot on the community page of pttjourney.com. You don't have to sign your name to it, just put your initial, but share a story, and you don't have to share it, just to write it to us, write it to that person. Tell them, what and why they meant something to you, and let us share in it with you, because the more we do that, the more positivity, the more strength we can find from each other. So that's my challenge. If you have any questions, email me, call me, text me. But please, embrace this, guys. Every one of us, and almost when you do this, it's almost cathartic to you. I know I've done this quite often, of writing letters to people. It's almost cathartic that you find yourself kind of feeling better about sharing and saying the words you're going to share. And then lastly, I want to finish up, because I'm running out of time, is, talking last night with Mike, sometimes, friends tell you things and say things to you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And one of the things I envy about Mike is he just basically says, I don't care. He doesn't mean it in an ignorant way. But where I unfortunately do care about the way I come across and the way I'm perceived. Mike is so comfortable in his skin that he's not an evil, he's not rude or obnoxious or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But he's just comfortable with who he is, and he can only be himself. And if you want to misconstrue his words or take an action of his the same way, I don't care, and he means it. And he can go on with his life in such a peaceful manner with that. He came off, I alluded to a TV character, I call him Gibbs. He reminded me of Gibbs from NCIS. He was, not wordy, but the words he said were pointed and had meaning. I'm running out of time here. I hope I can get across what I wanted to. I love you, Grace, Kira, and Landon. There's going to be more in the book, but I love you guys. Have a great day today. Head into Columbia City and have a great day.